Hey everyone, this is Chris Ryan from The Ringer. As many of you have heard by now, we lost a treasured colleague and friend over the weekend. Jonathan Tjarks passed away on Saturday. John was 34. He leaves behind a wife and a son, and we are obviously mourning his loss and sending all of our love to his family right now. If you go to theringer.com/Jonathan Tjarks, that's JONATHANTJARKS, you will find a memorial page for John, which has links to his GoFundMe that benefits his family and the amazing writing he did throughout his experience. I encourage you to go there, and if you can, please support the Tjarks family. Briefly, I will just say that John was among the first people that we hired to work for The Ringer, so he was instrumental in defining the voice and perspective of the site. He has as much to do with what this place is as anyone else. And throughout his experience with cancer, John communicated eloquently about the challenges he was facing, both through his writing and his podcasting. You could never stop John from talking about his passions. It's one of the things I loved about him. Over the last few months, whenever we would talk, whenever I would reach out to see how he was doing, I would try to keep it very John focused. And the next thing I knew, we would be talking about James Harden or Better Call Saul. He really loved this stuff. He loved talking about it, celebrating it, debating it, illuminating it. We're going to keep putting out our pods and writing while we grieve, but we wanted to let folks know that John was in our hearts and that his family was in our thoughts. Thanks for listening.
This episode is brought to you by Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. All right, it's official. I think I've discovered the ultimate coupling of all time. Like any good relationship, they really balance each other out. One is super sweet, and the other, well, they can be a little nutty sometimes. It is, of course, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, the perfect combination of peanut butter and chocolate. So perfect, some would call it true love. Find Reese's now at a store near you. This episode is brought to you by eBay Authenticity Guarantee. eBay knows that when it comes to jewelry, authenticity is the real gem. When you see the blue check mark that says Authenticity Guarantee, it means your next piece will be carefully inspired by jewelry experts and will always be worth its weight in gold. Whether you're looking to make a statement or build the perfect everyday look, eBay is making sure you get the real deal. With eBay Authenticity Guarantee, you can trust that jaw-dropping piece will always arrive jaw-droppingly real. Ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms. Welcome to Bachelor Party. I'm Juliet Litman. I'm back with Callie. Callie, hello.
Hi, I'm not sure if we should be excited about this segment. It's an emergency segment because of how depressed everyone is about to be.
Yeah, seriously. I guess some people consider this a spoiler, so here's your spoiler alert. If you don't want to hear it, skip ahead to when Traci joins. It should be in the notes. You can hit the timestamp if you're listening on Spotify, which you should. Reality Steve reported, and then Variety seemed to confirm that Zach, the vanilla wafer, who is incredibly boring and I just don't care about, is reported to be the next Bachelor.
I just don't get it. They have to, Bachelor Nation, the franchise, has to pay attention to Bachelor Nation's response to people, right? I have not seen a single person be like, oh my God, I love Zach. Do I think he's better than average looking guy? Sure.
Barely? Just above average.
Yeah. I mean, not my type. Not my type, but I can see someone thinking that he is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
He's definitely not bad looking. So
no. Handsome, sure.
But
swipe right on a dating app if you get Zach, sure.
Probably not for me, but most people probably. I would say 75% of people are for sure swiping right.
Yes, agreed.
That's a pretty good number, right? Yeah. But that's it. That's all I got. There's nothing else about him that I'm interested in. I even found the way that he broke up with
Rachel.
Rachel was just not. It gave me zero emotion. He could have been way harder on her. I'm glad he wasn't, but he could have been way harder on her. There's just nothing there. I don't get what they're seeing.
Me neither. I really don't get it. So Zach, his defining moments are he had the movie date with Rachel, which I thought was honestly one of the worst dates in the history of the show. And then they watched home videos on I think his hometown. And I'm just This tells me that Zach does not have a lot to offer in the present because like we're not like doing fun things with him and she clearly wasn't into him. I don't know. Like there's just not a lot to like about Zach. Like he's just, I don't really hate him, but I didn't have opinions about him. And I think the worst thing is like, we weren't really talking about him until now because we were like, he can't be the Bachelor. Are you kidding? No way.
No, but also like before our last episode when we recorded, before any of this was
out. Yeah.
I literally said we should just skip this part. It doesn't matter. Like,
I know.
And to your point, the fact that we have nothing good or nothing bad to say about him is frankly terrible. Like he gave us nothing to talk about. And I'm like, I would rather hate someone. Give me Tino as Bachelor. Like that, I don't think I hate Tino, but I dislike him. But like, at least I would have some sort of connection emotionally to him. I have nothing for Zach. I don't care about him. We could never see him on this franchise again, which I think we even said that on our episode.
I know.
Wouldn't matter.
That's such a good point. I would definitely rather hate the lead. Like, I'd rather hate them. Like, I was like, I hate Ari. Why is he the lead? But it was kind of fun making fun of him. And when you hate someone, either with good reason or no reason, it's like just kind of a lot more to discuss. But like Zach inspires nothing.
Nothing. Also, I don't think people would admit this, but I'm going to. Usually, if you hate someone, you're interested in them.
Yes.
Like, there's a reason why people like stalk people they dislike. Like, I see you looking at my page. You hate me, but you're looking at my page. Like, there's so many like TikToks and Instagram memes about it. But it's like, yeah, because I'm still like slightly interested in what you're doing. I want to make sure you're doing worse than me. I would never check Zach. I don't think I ever have Zach's Instagram or TikTok. I don't care.
I know.
And I think you lose viewers by picking someone that no one cares about.
I totally agree. I think it's a huge mistake. I mean, I was thinking about like what they could have done. I think a problem here is that they didn't get the chance to do Paradise hasn't aired yet. And like when Nick Viall became the Bachelor, it was off the back of him doing Paradise. And I think they're really screwed by this schedule because like, let's say Andrew had a great turn on Paradise, which I expect, or Justin for that matter. Like they can't be Bachelor because we haven't seen that yet. Also, it would be a spoiler for Paradise, which sucks because I just feel like there's so many guys that maybe we'll care about based on Paradise that can't be the Bachelor. And so it's actually like it's a huge problem. I think this is like absolute worst case scenario. I absolutely would have preferred Nate in like a somewhat, I don't know, like quote unquote problematic. I don't think it would have been that bad. I just like, can't we go back to Nate?
No, people are over that. Like, I don't even think people care about that anymore. It's done. It's over with. Everyone's moved on. I agree with you. Like the timing isn't ideal, but even with this timing, I could name 10 guys that I care about more than, I mean, first of all, I can name probably 50 in the franchise that I care about more than Zach. But like, I can name 10 guys that would have been great.
Yeah. I will say like, if we're choosing between Avon and Zach, I feel like Zach seems more emotionally unstable. And so maybe that's why they chose him over Avon because Zach seems like, based on how he was like, you know, so upset after their overnight and like the way he kind of like called her character into question. I'm like, could he be messy? Like Avon doesn't seem like he would be, even though I absolutely prefer him as a human. But like, that's the only thing I can really come up with, which I'm like, maybe Zach's like unstable and they think he'll make for a good dramatic Bachelor as a result.
Okay, maybe. But like, I feel like I'm trying to think of like another Bachelor other than the person that's coming into my head. But like Matt, for example, I wouldn't say that he was like making unstable decisions. They were throwing everything at him to make him do something. But he was hot enough that the women were just so into him that made it a little chaotic, right? Avon is good looking enough and a good enough guy. Like he checks a lot of boxes that I feel like you could get women that are obsessed with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't get this. Also, you have like tons of guys from Katie's season. You have all of Michelle's guys who haven't been on anything.
I know. Like even Brandon, who I hated, I would have preferred.
I did not hate Brandon, but like that's not even a discussion. Brandon wins 10-0 against Zach.
I know. Zach is probably at the very end of my long list. Like, I would be happy to never see Zach again, as previously discussed. Not even happy. I would not even notice. His absence would not be noticeable.
Yeah, it wouldn't be noticeable. Also, like, I don't want this, which I think we have said multiple times, but just being clear. Like, I don't have anything bad to say about Zach. Like,
Same.
It's not like he's a bad person. I actually think he seems like a pretty great guy.
Yeah.
Seems like a very, like, normal, great guy, whatever.
Just looking for marriage.
My problem
25.
is that I don't hate him and I don't love him. So I just don't care. Not caring is annoying, and it's not someone you want to see on TV. Zach, you're too, like, vanilla to be good TV.
I agreed. Also, what he likes about Rachel, I have no idea. And I have to say the coffee moment really stuck out for me. I understand they probably were feeling really awkward because their overnight date was so awkward. But like Zach's like earnestness and talking about how much he loves coffee, that's a deal breaker for me. And I just don't want to have to sit through many earnest Zach conversations about like things he's allegedly passionate about.
I mean, when I saw the news, I was like, there's no way this can be real.
I know.
Like, there's no way that Juliet and I are going to have to talk about this man for months. There's no way.
I know. It's personal for us. It's like, and I took that personally. Michael Jordan meme.
That's literally how I felt when you said, no, I think it is real. It hasn't started filming yet. We know that. So is there a chance that with everyone coming out and being like, what?
There's definitely a chance. Yes, there's definitely a chance. So I think everyone should start tweeting at Mike Fleiss and just tell them we don't want this. This is not what we're looking for. Zach is not it. In the words of Tyler Cameron at the end of his season with Canna Brown, this ain't it.
Tyler single? Come on.
I know. I'm sure Tyler's price is way too high.
Sign him up. But like Greg would be great.
Yeah, sure. Even like, I don't know, but there's plenty of people even from Hannah's season. Like, there's just Greg would be awesome. But like, I would even take Blake Moynes, who
I would take Blake.
Me too. He's a weirdo.
I would take Blake.
He's like
I'd take
also
Blake.
like super
I'd take
sexual.
Greg.
Like, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, maybe. Also, I think I liked him. Remember, I was like a big fan of his.
You were. He seems like a nice guy. He's so not for me, but I would definitely prefer him to Zach.
Yeah, me too. Also, I don't know if they can do this, but I would love Nate from Michelle's season.
Me too. Yeah, agreed. If he's on the table, let's go with that. Yeah, that would be awesome. He seems like a nice guy too. I mean, maybe his breakup was questionable, but I'm into it. Anyone but Zach.
I can't remember this guy's name, which is obviously not a great sign, and I'd still prefer him to Zach. The guy that was on Michelle's season, white guy, big eyes, brown hair.
Did he have on Michelle's season?
Mm-hmm. He made it like pretty far.
Rick? I think you're talking about Rick. The guy.
Rick, that is who I'm talking about.
The guy with his head on the plate. Yeah, he could have been fine. Or what about Rodney? He seemed wonderful. I mean,
great. Is Rodney not on Paradise?
I'm not sure, actually.
Also, he was just brought back up on Nate's podcast, saying like he's the one who he talked to with his through his breakup with Michelle. Like, there's some relevancy there. He's in that little group of guys that's literally everywhere all the time.
I know. This is a huge mistake. So everybody, tweet at Mike Fleiss. Tell him we do not want Zach because we don't want Zach. No, thank you. It's not good, people. We need to do something about this. So please tweet at Mike Fleiss. Callie, you and I, we're watching the finale together. It's 3 hours on Tuesday. So
it's 3 hours?
I know. Shoot me in the face. I'll come over late so we can skip through some commercials.
Yeah. Also, like, I won't be able to watch till like probably 8:39.
Great.
But
Perfect. We'll be back on Tuesday night. I'm now going to talk to my friend Traci Thomas. She's the host of the Stacks podcast, and we are going to talk about Tino.
I'm distraught.
This episode is brought to you by eBay Authenticity Guarantee. eBay knows that when it comes to jewelry, authenticity is the real gem. When you see the blue check mark that says Authenticity Guarantee, It means your next piece will be carefully inspired by jewelry experts and will always be worth its weight in gold. Whether you're looking to make a statement or build the perfect everyday look, eBay is making sure you get the real deal. With eBay Authenticity Guarantee, you can trust that jaw-dropping piece will always arrive jaw-droppingly real. Ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms. This episode is brought to you by Visible. Maybe you've already let your New Year's resolution slip. We all have, but you can still make a 2 year's resolution with Visible. Right now, you can get a one-line wireless plan from Visible for just $20 per month for 24 months. 24 months is basically 4 Bachelor seasons. That could be 4 engagements, 4 broken engagements. So many other couples we didn't see coming. It's really an eternity in Bachelor Nation. And that's unlimited 5G data powered by Verizon with no annual contracts. Switch now at Visible.com and use the code VISIBLE24. Don't miss out. Offer ends January 31st. New members only. Promotional rate with service on the Visible plan. For additional terms and network management practices, see Visible.com.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You might say all kinds of stuff when things go wrong, but these are the words you really need to remember. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. They've got options to fit your unique insurance needs, meaning you can talk to your agent to choose the coverage you need. Have coverage options to protect the things you value most. File a claim right on the State Farm mobile app and even reach a real person when you need to talk to someone. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
And now I have my internet friend who I've met one time, Traci Thomas from the Stacks. Hi, Traci.
Hi, I'm very honored to be here. Big Bachelor Party fan for a long time.
I really appreciate that. Yeah. Also, Traci's a big reader, and she hosts a podcast about books called The Stacks. Check it out.
Yeah, please.
I wanted to tell you that I've been engaging with nonfiction, but only in the car as audiobooks. But I'm listening to a really good one right now.
Which one?
It's called Kingdom of Ice by Hampton Sides.
I don't know it.
It's really good. My mom recommended it to me. It's a few years old. Okay. It's about explorers who are looking for the North Pole and get stuck in ice. If you've watched The Terror, it's related to that. It's really good. It's like American. It's like the world. Europeans and Americans knew nothing about the globe in the 1870s, and man, did they get in trouble.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. I read some fiction. I read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
Someone just recommended that to me like 2 days ago. Was it good?
I didn't love it, but as you know, I don't love fiction. Yeah. It's about friends. I think you like books about friends.
I do. Yeah, I do. Okay, cool.
I think you should read it. I think you'd read it fast. It's a quick read. Most people love it. I, of course, was like, I find issues.
I'm having some issues with contemporary literary fiction. I'm just like a little burnt out on it. So right now I'm reading City of God by E.L. Doctorow, which literally like probably no one else on the planet is right now. So it feels great.
You're the only one today.
Yeah, I think I might be. This is a great transition. Traci, I wanted you to come on the podcast because you DM me. I'm just going to read it.
Okay.
Earlier today.
No typos.
No, don't worry about it. I won't post it. I was in Whole Foods when I read this and I was like, good point. Here's what Traci said to me at 10:01 a.m. Eastern. Do you think the reason the Tino totally flipped is that whatever happened after the show informs how they're editing him? Like they know he becomes a villain, so they have to show us that side of him so that Rachel will look good? Because they were giving him a great edit, and then they just stopped. This is a great point. I was going to steal this point, but instead of stealing it, here you are. So,
thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the credit.
When would you say Tino flipped? Callie said earlier in the week that it was like the baby back bitch moment.
Definitely baby back bitch week for sure.
And because so that was on the cruise.
It was on the cruise. And I think it was right after the Paris date, like the week after the Paris date. And that was like, we love Tino. I mean, Tino was looking hot. It was rainy. They were snuggled up. They were having a great time. Rachel seemed lovely. He seemed lovely. And then all of a sudden, Tino, very upset about the cheese, very upset about not getting the group date rose, even though he won the cheese thing. And I feel like baby back bitch was like, if it was a movie, it would be like dun dun dun, and then the whole thing would like flip, you know?
It's like the third act, and it's like a horror movie, and Tino's going to get murdered or something like that.
He's going to murder everybody else.
All right, he's going to murder everyone because he's our Patrick Bateman, American Psycho.
Exactly.
I'm not proud of myself. This season, I've focused a lot on everyone's appearance and aesthetics, but I just want to blame that on the fact that there's not a lot of other meat to really dig into. But I will say along those lines, and forgive me for being shallow, I feel like Tino started looking worse on the show. I felt like and so I felt like his physical appearance started to like just devolve. Like he looked like sweaty and messy and like he was having breakouts. And so a generous person might be like, oh, well, he was in love and he was really stressed and he was like having a hard time. But I don't know if I'm a generous person. It's really hard to tell like who this guy is. And like if you were just describing this season of The Bachelor to someone, like how would you describe Tino?
Okay. I found your was it Patrick Bateman?
The guy
Bateman I found that to be very apt, especially this week. He had a moment this week where I was like, oh, Rachel, you've got to literally kick him out of this meeting with your family. Like you have to go. It has to be over.
He's got to go.
But I would describe him as like, he's like a regular, handsome man. You know, like I mean, Rachel said this at the beginning. She's never dated anyone who made her laugh. And I feel like Tino, of all the men she's had on the show, is the most or the least likely to make her laugh. You know?
Have you seen a single joke from this man? I can't think of any. I can't even think of many times he's smiled, actually.
Only when he's like looking longingly into her eyes and lying about his parents. You know, he was like very smiley during the whole like, my parents are going to be fine. They're going to like you soon, which I found to be also terrifying. So I would describe him as like your average. He's sort of like the hot friend in like a nerdy friend group vibe where he's like pretty insecure. He seems very competitive. But the thing about the edit for me is like, I think you could read into Tino all of the opposite things.
Yeah.
If you wanted to. Like you could take his sweaty breakouty thing is just like he's very stressed, he's worried, he's uncomfortable, or you could take it like he's spiraling and like his whole evil plan is falling apart.
Yeah, because I'm like, I hate Tino. I've been saying that now for a few weeks. And like, as I started thinking about it more, I was like, do I hate Tino? I think I just like, I don't like him. Right. And I don't like looking at him, even though he's like objectively handsome.
Yeah.
But I just like overall feel like I have no idea who he is. Like now, because of the way the show has been edited, like he does seem like some kind of soulless monster. But I'm like, is that just because they were trying to make him clearly the front runner so we wouldn't be expecting this meltdown over Avon? Like I'm just very confused about what the narrative the show was trying to put together is. And that's why I thought your note was so good. And also why I was glad that but we're going to talk about it because I feel like this is a very like bookish conversation of like, what is the narrative and like, what is the arc here? Yeah. And I actually have no idea. Like if I was trying to sum it up for someone who hasn't watched the season, like I think I would just say like, everyone hates Rachel because she is no fun and all of her guys suck. I just feel like I don't know. Although I do like Avon. He seems great. So yeah. I don't know. I'm very confused. Like, what would you say Rachel's narrative is?
Okay. I would say Rachel's narrative is good girl on a power trip. It definitely feels like, you know, from I always call him Colton, from Clayton's season. She was very much like the good girl, the down home girl. She was the girl we all thought he was going to pick until.
Totally. It was going to be her until it wasn't. I stand by it forever.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like she was very emotional. She was giving very sensitive. Like we sort of felt sorry. At least I did. I felt sorry for her. Like I was like, yeah,
I felt sorry
Gabby
for her,
rocks.
The whispering was very difficult.
Was horrible. Yeah. I'm so glad she's not doing that. But like it was like Gabby was like the badass girl, and then Rachel was like this poor girl who's like so sweet and so romantic and like poor girl. And so I feel like I came into that with her, but it seems very clear that Rachel wanted a redemptive arc for herself, and she is doing everything she can to like be in charge and be in control. And like, it doesn't seem authentic to who she is based on what we saw last season. And I also think that the narrative of the show is so out of whack this season.
There is none. I mean,
there's none at all.
Yeah, there is none. I will say like one thing that I wanted to dig into a little bit is Rachel when she was talking to her friends. I don't know if you saw this, but Tino's dad like posted something about like everyone's going to be angry. Everyone's going to be sorry when they don't have me to rail against. And that means like Jesse Palmer, Sam Rubin in America. I'm paraphrasing here, but
Who is Sam Rubin? Was that her friend?
Rachel's two friends were named, I think Sam and Nate.
Okay.
But then I went to her Instagram to see if she was following a Sam Rubin and I didn't see one. So I don't know. But I did think that like when she was talking to her two friends, I was like, is this the authentic Rachel? Is this like
I don't think so.
Like what do you think was her most authentic moment? And I hate using that word because it's like so overused. It's like it's tantamount to content, but I can't think of a better one when we were getting the best view into who she actually is.
I felt like the most like revelatory moment was when she was talking to her mom. And her mom was like, is he ready? And she's like, I mean, next time you see me, I could be engaged. And like, she really, about Avon. Sorry, this was all about Avon. I was moved by that and shocked by that. Not moved like to tears, but like it did something to me, which when I watch The Bachelor, a lot of the times I'm just like very cynical and I'm like, this feels fake. But in that moment, I was like, oh, this feels like a real emotion. Like this feels like a real thing.
Yeah. Like she felt like she figured it out.
Yeah, it felt like that was very much the answer. I also feel like, again, her probably most like real moment we've ever seen was the second breakup with Clayton. That day, like when they're at the hotel, it was like the double breakup again. That day I was like, oh, poor baby.
When she was just like, it was total opposite from Gabby, where she was just like so broken. And it's funny you say that because I think the other time that she's been like her true self is when she's just like weeping, telling Avon like she can't go any further.
Yes.
And I actually felt really sorry for her in that moment. I was not channeling my passionate feelings towards her in that time. But it does seem like she mostly she emotes in a believable way, at least when she's crying.
Yeah.
Which is like both perfect for The Bachelor and also like hugely annoying. And I think especially when you're sharing the screen with Gabby, who is like seems to be having the most fun and most herself when she's laughing, it's really hard to take in. And I would say like similarly with Tino now compared to Erich, and we're really going to dig into this Erich debacle and in a minute. But Tino also just seems so like rehearsed and like overly fixated on, I don't even know what, I guess just like winning. That it's just really like a tough watch. I don't know.
Do you know the other moment where I felt like Rachel was really authentic, and this was not in a good way, was when she was like, why are you yelling at me to Avon? That moment felt like real life in a way that was like, again, I was moved, but it was like Spidey sense. Like it was like a Karen moment, right? Like it was like not, I don't want to say triggering because it wasn't like triggered, but it definitely was like, whoa, that is a thing. And that felt like she was not faking the funk there at all.
Yeah.
Not a great moment.
Yeah. When she also was like, when they're parting in that fight, I was just like, this is very like recognizable behavior of like, we're fine, but we're not fine. Yeah. I don't think he did anything wrong.
I don't either.
He was honest. He was like, I'm ready in my life to make a commitment, but like we've known each other for 2 months. Checks out.
Yeah. And he was like, I thought about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which like, I think that if you want to be in a healthy, successful relationship, you have to be able to change your mind with your partner.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to be able to be like, you know what, I thought about this thing that we were going to do and I don't want to do it, and like feel comfortable and safe saying that. And if you can't, and it becomes like a huge issue with a major thing like that, like it's not like, oh, I changed my mind for dinner. It's like a major life commitment.
Yeah, totally.
I didn't feel like he did anything wrong. I think the only thing you could maybe fault him for was that he didn't communicate that with her before he communicated it with the friends. I don't know that he had to be so honest with the friends.
Yeah.
I think he could have waited to their like last one-on-one and been like, hey, and laid it out, because you don't want to hear, like, I understand why Rachel was so embarrassed by that.
Yes, me too. Completely. But yeah, the blindsiding is just like, it's not a blindside. It's just not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Also, it's like, it's feelings. It's not like he's like dropped bomb of like, oh, I have a kid, or like, oh.
Right. Like something that's like information that he kept from her. It was something that could have authentically changed in the moment, or like that could have realistically been a moment where he was like, I had some downtime. I wasn't filming every day. I don't know.
I think another thing that's just like feels so typical Bachelor is just like the lack of screen time for Avon, when obviously she was so into him. Like it goes back to your original point that prompted this podcast of like, what was the intention with the edit initially versus now. And because she clearly was really into him way more than any of us realized. And I had like discounted him the whole season. Callie's really into him. I think he's really attractive, but I was like, okay, what? I don't know anything about him. And like Salem, I was like, that's the worst possible date. So I was just like, who cares about this? But it just feels so typical Bachelor that he, this man of color got like no screen time. And it's just like, so frustrating. And then all this shit we're learning about Erich, and we're just like, so what the fuck? And so here's what we've learned about Erich in the last week. And I really regret that I didn't address this earlier in the week with Callie. But first of all, Erich is from Bedminster, New Jersey. And when he was in high school, he dressed up as Jimi Hendrix for Halloween, including wearing blackface. And a photo of that was printed in his high school yearbook. And insane. Erich issued an apology, which we can talk about if, what he should and shouldn't do. But I have to say, like, not letting Erich off the hook at all. The fact that a school within the last 15 years in this country was like, yeah, cool, we'll print this picture in our high school yearbook is so appalling to me that I'm just like, who are the adults and like the teachers and administrators that allow this to happen? They should all be fired. That's like so fucking crazy. I cannot get over it. I'm curious what your reaction was to finding out about this. Did I tell you about it? No, I told you about Erich's girlfriend.
I knew about this. Okay, I'm of a few minds of this. One is like, yes, the administrators, come on. Like, you're the adults. These are high school children. These are children. They're under 18 for the most part. Maybe some of them are 18, the seniors. But like, your job is to protect these people from themselves. Like, you're a teacher. So that,
and to also say, like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
But also to be like, this is wrong and here's why.
Yes, 1,000%.
Yeah, not fucking print that photo. It is so appalling. It's crazy.
It's very bad. I think that, like, for me, and maybe this is just because as a Black person in America, I'm jaded. We've seen it all. I was less offended by this one. It was sort of how I felt about the Rachel Kirkconnell thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, this is bad, and like, you shouldn't be doing that, and you know better. I know you know better. But I also am just like, okay, so you're racist. Like, it's not, to me, it's not like when the governor of Virginia was in blackface in his like medical school yearbook. Like, Erich is not implementing policy. He's not like doing things to other people. He's just an idiot who has racism, running through his veins, as most people in this country do.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, it's super embarrassing for him. It's super fucked up. Hey, it's 2011. Don't do blackface. You know what I mean? Like, I just like, but at some point it just becomes like, I think the thing that makes me the most upset is that I actually believe that the Bachelor franchise thinks that this is good for the show, because otherwise they would stop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Frequently. It happens so frequently. And like, it reminds it. What I always am called back to when these things happen and are still happening is Lee on Rachel Lindsay's season.
Yeah.
Like, it's like it wasn't hard to find. And then, it happened like the next time with Becca Kufrin and Garrett, and he had horrible sexist things. And it's like, these things keep coming up and they always trickle out like as the show's getting going. And it's like, you could get in front of it, or you could just not cast the person. And if it was in his yearbook, like, how far are you guys even looking back? Like, he's only, 30?
Yeah, I think he's 29 or 30. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a really good point, because I was thinking about this. Like, a lot of people are recruited now through LinkedIn and like dating apps, and people recommend them too. But it seems like that's where a lot of the recruiting happens, which I guess like kind of makes sense, because like the age of people who go on the show like aren't really on Facebook, and they're not really on Twitter, so whatever. So I was just thinking, like, if you are a casting person and this repeatedly happens, like at a certain point, you change your protocol and you change how you cast. You're just like, let's say maybe you couldn't account for someone's high school yearbook photo, or you couldn't get your hands on it. Like, they clearly aren't changing much of the process, because they're having the same outcomes over and over again. And so I think what you're saying is like really hard to dismiss. And, it makes a lot of sense, because
couldn't they just like also interview the people's like best friends from high school. Do you know what I mean? Like part of the interview process is just like check in with Erich's bestie, Paul, you know?
Right.
And like Paul will be like, oh, like it'll be like, hey, what's the most embarrassing thing? Or are there any things that we should know about Erich? Any red flags? And you know, Paul will be like, yeah, so there's that one thing. Because I think my best friends would at least tell me to tell them and be like, hey, don't forget about that thing you did because like, what if that comes out, you know?
What if Paul, though, is like Erich and doesn't see anything wrong with it? But
it's true.
Maybe that would come because I actually think that's a more likely outcome because I think you're giving him way too much. You're giving like anonymous people like way too much credit, unfortunately.
That's true.
But I do think in that conversation, though, maybe you'd be like, oh, this is a group of people who doesn't have like this kind of social awareness that we're now trying to bring into the show or something like that. Maybe like you'd figure it out that way.
Or just add it to the questions. Like, do you have an STD? Have you ever done blackface? Have you ever worn another culture as a costume? Are there photos of that? Were they printed in your yearbook? Like, I feel like...
Isn't it depressing that that's like a legitimate recommendation?
Yeah, but the fact that they're not doing that or that Erich lied about it.
Yeah. I think they don't ask. I think they don't ask. Yeah. I don't think that's a question that's asked because, like you said, like it happens over and over. And like clearly Lee was intentional with Rachel and that's like so sick. I don't know. It's really rough. And then, you know, I also just like don't really know what to do with like Erich's two scandals now are one that he wore blackface and one that he was seeing someone right before the show and like sent her a heartfelt message like right after the show, which came out in the last couple of days. And what has happened to Nate from this season and sort of the way that his character has come into question as a result of him dating other people, I'm just sort of like, these sort of like the scandals of, or like not even scandals, but like the revelations, to use your word, that people had other relationships that complicate going on The Bachelor gets like more attention than Erich's blackface photo, like including for me where I was like, oh, right, I need to talk about these two things today. But like I forgot about the blackface photo. And I'm just sort of like, we've lost our sense of wrong and like what's more wrong than others. As we always come back to, like the show just can't really handle this kind of thing. Like there's no way to litigate it in a way that's like productive, let alone satisfying, or satisfying, let alone productive.
Yeah.
And so I'm just sort of like, I don't really know what to do, but here I am continuing to watch the show and talk about it.
That's how I feel. Like I still watch every week. Gotta carve out my 2 hours. I mean, so here's the thing about the Erich girlfriend situation, which is, I feel basically identical about this as I do about the Nate thing, is like, okay, they probably just learned that into them.
I feel similarly. Do I recommend that my friends date these men as a result? No. But like, am I incensed about it? No.
No, I really don't care. He broke up with her. Yeah. If he was like, hey, honey, I'm home. Can't wait to see you. I might feel differently. But and in the last text to her that was like, I feel really bad about what I did. And I think about you. But that doesn't necessarily, to me, I did not read that as like, I think about you and want to get back together. I read it as like, he feels guilty. Like he thinks about what he did all the time. Yeah. Not to apologize for Erich because I truly do not care for that person. I don't like the mullet. Since we're talking about how people look sometimes on this show, I don't care for it. I'm going on record. But to me, it's like he did break up with her and maybe it's a little too close for comfort, but like, I don't know.
I thought the worst part was his text messages were really lame. I was just like, this guy sucks. I was just like,
yeah.
I was just like, okay, so he admits in these texts, if you take them to be true, that, which I do. I'm not like trying to, say this person who is apparently named Amanda. Okay. I'm not saying she's like lying or whatever, but when he says to her that, I'll just read some of his messages. I know this isn't ideal, this being going on the show. I wanted to do this to see if there's something else I could do with my life. I really like you, Amanda. I don't think it'd be a big deal, but I understand how you feel. I'm sorry. And I understand if you don't want to see me anymore. And then he said, it isn't real, but you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't really think this all through. I didn't realize the implications. I'm sorry. I thought we could get on the same page about this. I really didn't mean for this to hurt you. I mean, it's just like, this guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
And then he says, I am not well, Amanda. You make me happy, but I'm deeply unhappy with myself. You are better off without me in the long run. Trust me.
But then she's like, we all hate ourselves. like, you should still be with me. I was like, okay, he's literally telling you he doesn't want to be with you. Like,
yeah. She then, by the way, sorry, I'm being really mean about Amanda, but she clearly like was like, I'm going to wait 2 hours to respond and I'm going to torture him. Because then he texts her, and then literally 2 hours later, she says, you don't get to tell me what I'm better off without. We are all unhappy with ourselves. But we have the choice to choose someone who makes us a better version of ourselves. Apparently, Reality Steve said they had only been dating for like 2 months. So this is like a lot over a pretty new relationship. But like, I don't know. Erich also says to her next, I don't think I can be that for you until I figure out who I am. It's actually like pretty clear that he went on the show lost and like, not that I don't want to give him too much credit, but it is possible he like talked himself into Gabby or like, in the bubble really fell for it. And then he was like, okay, I then, maybe felt like this relationship was like filling a void. I mean, I think frequently people mistake relationships for filling the void when it's like something else needs to be figured out. But
right. And let's not forget that Erich was also dealing with the illness of his father.
Yeah.
And as a person who has lost a father when I was 25 years old, like, you do hate yourself a little bit and you do feel really lost. And it is a really difficult experience when your parent has a terminal illness, right? Like, it's different. Not that it's any better, but it's different than a sudden death. There's a lot of like thinking and processing, and like you have time to get in your head about mortality and your future and like who you're going to be and what your legacy, like all these things that a 20-something isn't necessarily thinking about, which would make a new relationship very difficult and complicated.
Yeah. And also like, what are your priorities? And like, I also would just have to guess that it must be really hard to know like what is selfish and what's not, and like what is like, how should you be spending your time? Like, I mean, I can't even imagine what that's like. So clearly, I actually feel bad for him in those texts instead of being mad at him. Yeah. But it's just sort of like, I do feel like this is more likely to be addressed on part 2 of the finale than his blackface photos.
I do think also the thing that was really kind of like irked me about Amanda's like long text was like, since we've already seen one of his apologies, I wanted to shed light on another. Not that they're the same. I was like, listen, Amanda, I find blackface considerably more offensive than a guy not being into you. Like, I get that you're saying that he gave 2 apologies, but like, I don't know, Amanda. It was 2 months. He didn't like you that much. I'm sorry. He should have not been a dick. He probably shouldn't have gone on the show. But he did, and he did break up with you, and he didn't lead you along, and he said, I can't be that. And like 20-something men suck, unfortunately.
Really also, I just think like going to like a Bachelor spoiler person with like receipts is really like,
I hate it.
I hate it too, but I think also with his apology about his blackface photo, I will say I'm glad he apologized. I feel like that is progress from the Rachel Kirkconnell disaster.
Oh my God.
I don't even know what Rachel intended or had wanted to do. I will say I feel like she has actually followed through on trying to like learn and be a resource. So,
sure.
I do think
means.
Sure. At least I feel like she's not just like moved on from this and forgotten it happened, which is good.
Well, I've moved on from her and forgotten she happened. So I'm not really like, I don't keep up with them once they're gone.
My former co-host Jacoby was the same way. He was like, I drag their file to the trash and I move on.
Yeah.
I think they're happy about that. I think they actually don't want the attention, which is, I guess, good for their relationship. But I also like unfollowed Matt on all platforms because he's just like too active. And I was like, not just exercise-wise, but like posting. He's also too active exercise-wise for me. But at least Erich acknowledged it in a timely fashion, which is like absolutely the lowest bar. I acknowledge that. But in terms of, is anyone learning anything? At least there's a modicum of education happening and how to proceed when you're on The Bachelor and you do something racist.
There's not an apology for it, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's just like, I don't accept any apology for it. I just sort of I think the only thing that I accept is like, yeah, you did blackface and that's pretty fucked. Like, thank you for acknowledging. But like, I don't know, 2011, like, my guy, like,
yeah. I'm with you. I actually like, I don't think the substance of the apology matters. It's one of the reasons why we read all these text messages. We didn't read that one. I'm just like, I don't think it really, I don't think the substance of it matters. And
thanks for apologizing. And
I hope you've changed. Also, I hope you acknowledge your racism. To your point, I think most people have it, and you figure out what to do with it once you acknowledge it. So
don't get it printed in your yearbook.
I don't know. It's also just like, Bedminster is made famous by Trump having a golf course there. Right. So,
well, do you know the other thing that's a little interesting about this, and I find this very interesting on the show, is that Gabby is Mexican. Her mother is Mexican, and it really has not come up.
No.
Not once. Not the first Latina Bachelorette. Not
Claire's mother is also Mexican.
Oh, but also never came up.
Yeah, Claire would bring it up. Not Claire and Tayshia, I believe, both have Latino mothers. They both
that's
did.
right. Tayshia does. That's right.
Yeah, but not Claire. Claire mentioned it for sure, but Tayshia brought it up. I think actually on Higher Learning with Van and Rachel,
right? Because she's not black.
She was like, my mother's Latina. So yeah,
I have feelings about that as well, but we won't do that today. But with Gabby, it's never come up on the show. And I know she has a difficult relationship with her mother, and that's complicated and all of that. But a white man doing blackface who is the presumptive winner in a relationship with a woman of color.
The presumptive heir. Yeah.
I'm like, there's something about that dynamic that also feels extra icky because she is a woman of color. And it's like, okay, well, it sort of reminds me a little bit of the Becca Garrett situation where it's like Becca was like, this feminist person. Well, that's how she sort of came off on the show. Like we knew that about her because people were very like, how is this going to work out with them from the beginning? And then like when we found out about his likes or whatever, his weird.
Yeah.
And then it all
was anti-immigrant, among other things.
Yeah. Anyways. So I don't know. I do think that added layer of Gabby's ethnicity also makes me a little like, don't feel great about that for her.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also just like something you're getting at is all of these instances that we have referred to are like not it's like overt racism and overt ignorance, but in like unfortunately commonplace ways. And so I think as a result, there's not like a huge scandal the way there was with Chris Harrison when he was defending Rachel Kirkconnell and like talking over Rachel Lindsay. So it's just like, and again, like I don't think that Jesse Palmer or anyone is equipped to like have this conversation with Erich and Gabby on Tuesday. So I hope they don't. I'm just like, no one wants that because as you said, what's there to say other than Erich fucked up? And I hope he's righting his wrongs in private.
Yeah. No, it's true. And there's nothing to say. And Jesse's not equipped. And don't bring back Emmanuel Acho either because I did not think that he was equipped either. Sorry, just not a big
I think a lot of people agreed with you. I thought it was whatever. We can talk about that another time as well. What are your thoughts on Jesse Palmer? I'm his number one cheerleader. Just curious what you think.
I really feel that you have like infected me with the Jesse Palmer bug because I really like him.
He's just good at his job, Traci. I didn't infect you with anything. Can I tell you?
I don't know that I cared about him, but then you were so gung-ho and I feel like I was like, well, I mean, I don't have strong feelings, so I'll be Team Jesse. But like another Bachelor podcast that I listen to and I love is the Two Black Girls, One Rose, and they refer to him as the man that stole Tayshia and Caitlin's job. So like they're the opposite. They're like they think he's like a total dud. I think the job is a thankless job. I think it's a job for sort of a dud person. Like I don't think you're going to have your most charismatic, exciting person do that job because you'd have to rewrite it. I think Jesse is a definite step or 5 above Chris Harrison. And I think that he is, I prefer him to Tayshia. I found her to be very wooden, but I don't love him, but like, I don't hate him. Was very, very excited about the French. Loved the French.
Me too.
And I do have a slight conflict of interest because I do have a friend who dated him years ago.
Whoa! At Florida or what?
In New York City after Florida, but a long time ago.
When he was on the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants?
I think it was after his football career. I think he'd started broadcasting.
Wow.
And he, that's all I'll say. Don't want to give away too much information.
Oh my God. This is amazing. I'll be asking about that later. For me, he has saved the season. The way that he talks to Rachel is so funny to me. I'm not sure if he's trying to be funny, but the way where he's like, it's your call. Like when he takes the football euphemisms, but like makes them funny instead of annoying. And like, he's just like, he's like QB2 as a host and like best possible scenario. Not like Matt Saracen, but like as like, your SEC backup quarterback as host. And I love it.
I think he's doing a great job. I just think that the job is like,
not a job.
used to do the screen time. It's like 30 seconds. Like there's not a lot to like love or hate.
I know. I will say to Jesse's credit, unlike Chris Harrison, Jesse has been in every episode of all of the seasons so far, whereas like Chris would not appear in some episodes in his later days. So there is that. There is that. But so is there any way in which you could like Tino? I mean, Erich, we've just written off. Tino, do you see yourself having any kind of reversal with him? I regret to tell you the finale is 3 hours on Tuesday.
Are you kidding?
I unfortunately am not. Also sucks because it's live. So that'll be a late night for me and Callie. But anyway.
Oh, no.
Is there any way which you could like Tino by the end?
Okay, wait. I'm going to say a crazy thing here. I actually still, after the blackface and the girlfriend, like Erich more than Tino.
Oh, I did too. I've just like written him off as like someone I could actively be like, yep, cool.
Yeah,
but
he's done.
Tino,
he's not getting a follow on social, if that's the question.
Definitely not. None of them are.
Tino, you know what? If Tino really unleashed his true inner villain, I could maybe get behind Tino. Sort of like how I felt about Greg. I did not care for Greg at all. I found him to be weird and annoying, and I didn't like him. But yes, when Greg just went full like stonewalled Katie, I was like, oh, now this I can get behind.
Yeah, so we want the drama. We want the extreme.
That's exactly right.
At time of recording, Erich has 107,000 followers on Instagram, and Tino has 38. I'm honestly surprised by that. I thought that like maybe early on he would have gotten more.
Interesting,
but
the whole Instagram thing is over for all of these people.
I think it's over and we're just old. Like I guess I should see like what's up on TikTok, but then it would make noise on my phone.
Yeah, I don't TikTok either. An elder. But like in the heyday, remember what's her face? Hannah had like 1 million followers by the end of her season.
Hannah and Tyler, I think both have 2 million. I mean, Tyler Cameron's holding strong at 2.2, and Hannah Brown, I mean, she's at 2.7.
Right. But that's
I hate Hannah Brown.
Same. That's past. That whole ship has sailed.
Yeah, that everything, it's been downhill since then altogether. One thing people have been saying on the internet is that Erich is reminding them of Jed, because Jed also had a girlfriend, but it was a really different situation. Her name was Haley. She's now married to Hannah Brown's brother.
Saw this.
Which is psychotic.
So weird.
It's like a Tino move. It's like,
it's like keep her close. Hannah was like, you have to marry her so that we always know what she's up to. She ruined my life.
Yeah, seriously. I actually definitely prefer Erich to Jed, even with the blackface.
Yes. I really disliked Jed.
Everyone did. Everyone
I think also because he was up against Tyler. It was like, and how could this? And he sang.
And we didn't hate Pilot Pete at the time. He was just like a goofy guy that she had sex with. Like, who cares?
4 times. But remember Jed, the fucking singing Jed.
The singing was horrible. His brown suit, it was all bad.
Boots. He always wore those stupid boots. It was a bad look. I don't know that there's anything Tino could do besides just like destroy, just like full blazing guns, like the whole, just like a real disaster. Otherwise, I think he's done for.
He's done. I don't think we'll hear from him again. I don't see him like.
You don't think he'll go to Paradise and just be sweaty
like
in Paradise?
Next year? I'm assuming he does win based on their after like post show teaser stuff. So it would have to be next year. I could see Tino dating someone from Bachelor World, but not to Paradise. Like I could see him getting I don't know, like someone else who lives in Southern California. Just like someone else in the mix, like a lesser star from Bachelor Nation, but like someone who maybe also is like disliked or something. I don't know what's the girl who was on Paradise?
people hated her, but I really liked her. Very brash Asian gal.
Tammy?
Yes. She might be too much for him.
Yeah, I think she's got like too much personality. I think that I don't know. I just feel
Shanae.
No way.
The ultimate villain.
Shanae? No way. I don't know who, but I just feel like I could see him dating someone like that we know, or like from like a different reality show or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
I think he's gonna stick around because he seems to want it too bad.
Yeah, and I guess I do think that he's like pretty committed to his fundraising for charity. So,
that's good.
There's that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out. If you enjoyed hearing from Traci, please check her out on the Stacks and follow the Stacks Pod on Instagram. Anything else we should mention about you, Traci?
No, my show's about books. It's not nearly as dramatic as this.
I know. We got a lot of book readers.
Yes, if you like books, come listen to my podcast. We have a good time. Juliet was on.
I had a great time.
We had a blast.
No, you should read Love Marriage. Have I told you about that?
No.
I think you might like that, actually.
Okay. You did send me some book. I can't remember what it was.
I told True Biz. You should. That's.
I have it.
About it.
I have it.
It's a hit. It's definitely one of the best books of the year. It's really interesting about language too. It's like I feel like even if you don't love fiction, I learned a lot from it that I didn't know, and it's just because it's about a deaf boarding school. There's a lot about sign language, and I really learned a lot, and it made me think about language differently. It was very, very great. I just loved it. And if you liked it, Sarah Novich has another book, so you could read too.
Oh, okay. I love this.
Thank you to Bobby Wagner for stepping in and editing this podcast this week. Callie and I will be back after part 2 of the most dramatic finale ever. I just want to note, and then we really are signing off. 3 hours is coming Tuesday, and they went 15 minutes over this week. I mean, for what? To have Zach, the wafer, appear on stage? I mean...
a nightmare. It's too long.
Truly. On that note, have a great weekend. Talk to you on Tuesday night.